Welcome in. This is 300 Yards to Unknown, a golf podcast that starts with golf, and who the hell knows where it's going to end up. Joining me again, you might see his work on The Score. You might see his work on Twitter at @EPatGolf. It's Eric Patterson. What up, dude?
Good to be back, Rick. Excited for episode number 2. A little bit more to talk about and a little bit fewer days until the balls are in the air.
We are recording this. I don't even know what day it is. Tuesday morning on the West Coast, so just in the afternoon on the East Coast. We are 9 days away from live PGA Tour action, man.
It's the odds boards are out. There's people are starting to talk about it again, getting pretty excited.
With that being said, the return to golf is not necessarily without any bumps in the road. John Deere Classic has been canceled, but it seems like reports have it where they're just going to potentially play Muirfield Village 2 weeks in a row. That seems like the most logical way to deal with a cancellation.
Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. It makes a lot of sense. They don't have to travel. I mean, it's a nice enough course. I mean, it's kind of weird that it'll be back-to-back events. I'll be interested to see what they call it, or if there's field changes. It could just be exact same replay of the week prior, but you don't have to make guys travel, same hotels, so it's the simplest solution to a complicated problem.
Yes. So I have a couple of thoughts about this. It'll be weird. There's probably never been a time where they've used the same course back-to-back weeks, right? For 2 different events. This has got to never have happened before.
Yeah, I don't have the history books in front of me, but you're probably safe assumption there.
Yeah, I did not look that up. I'm assuming that is the case outside of war times or something. Like in modern history of golf,
Yeah.
This has probably never happened before. Or assuming it is going to happen. So a couple of things. How crazy is so say we go back-to-back weeks at Muirfield Village or anywhere for that matter. Fantasy golfers, will basically just roster whatever the optimal lineup was from the week before, right? Like they're like, oh, they're hot, same course, run it right back. Like let's play the same lineups.
It's like perfect course history, recent form
Yeah.
combination that we've never had before. It's going to be, pretty much contrarian, just going to be who missed the cut last week and roster those guys.
Who missed the cut?
Completely
Yeah.
unknown.
And we can't even say, oh, we missed the cut and got to the next place early because everyone has still been there the whole time.
Yeah, they're just floating around.
I am okay. Will this be the only cancellation? Like obviously we have no idea and things change so quickly, but what's your hunch on how this schedule kind of shakes out, July, August from here on out?
It's a state by state thing, and I guess Illinois might have some of the stricter rules. I don't know personally all of the state requirements and stuff like that, but it sounds like it should be. I mean, they're talking about fans being allowed at some of these events, and that's what the tournament. I guess the organizer of the John Deere Classic said that they were willing to host it. It just as soon as fans weren't allowed on the grounds, they had to cancel it. So unless other tournaments see that being as a financial downfall, they're just, there's no point in running the event without fans.
Right.
And again, that was a state restriction. So it's not like they were willing to have fans on the property. They just weren't allowed. So I don't know all of the state by state requirements, but I could see this being the only one. My fingers are crossed for that. But again, we'll see.
Yeah, I have to look into this. So from what I understand, objectively, Illinois' been fairly good with this COVID stuff. So from what I understand, I think they were the first state to hit all of the CDC milestones that they put out. And whether that means they've done it because of strict things like this, that might be the case of why we're not getting golf and the PGA Tour in Illinois. But I guess where this leads me is we might see another cancellation or whatever, but now I'm much more optimistic that there won't be a gap in the schedule. They'll just play wherever they played the week before twice in a row, or wherever they're going to play the next week twice in a row, which I think is logical and kind of keeps me hopeful that there will be a lot of golf over the next, Eric, 14 months.
Yeah, I've always thought the PGA Tour loves having a weekly event, but like, what's wrong with taking a week off? I get like, you obviously want to fill TV slots, you want to have eyeballs on your sport, but like, this is a perfect time. You can just take a week off. Like, we've had a bunch of weeks off in the past. This is an opportunity to just take a week off, let it breathe a bit, but they're just going to go right back to the same course and do something exactly the same. Another 72 hole tournament at the exact same course with probably the same players. It's just like, they don't really care like that it's a repeat product. They're just willing to, golf is golf, I guess.
Can I offer a reason on why they don't take weeks off, Eric?
Go for it.
I'm going to think it's the bank account. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the reason that they don't want to take.
Especially now.
Yeah, well, especially now because we've been off for 3 months. But you're right. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Okay, how about this? How about just play an 8-round event? Like, let's just go. Like, let's just play this straight through 8 rounds, make a cut through 4, and turn this into some, like, massive thing.
8 rounds, or you do like a 2-week event. The first is stroke play, and then they do a match play after that or something. I don't know.
There you go. I like that.
It's less golf for the guys. They're obviously not going to do it, but it would be cool to like have a cut, seed the guys, and then have a 4-day match play tournament the following week.
They will not do any of this, but it will be
something different,
fun.
But no, they won't do it.
Yeah, I very much in favor of, especially now, things are weird, dude. Like, embrace it. Do something crazy. Like, give us 8 rounds, cut it after 4, go to match play. I don't care. Let me see a bunch of different stuff. So that's JDC. That's the John Deere Classic. The other news that came out, I guess it was yesterday, was this PGA Tour University, which is essentially a streamlined effort to get graduating seniors from college onto the Korn Ferry Tour. The way I understand this, Eric, is the top 5 guys in this new NCAA ranking system at the end of the year, at the end of the season for them, would get automatic access and a card on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then players 6 through 15 would have their choice of joining. I think it's PGA Tour Latino America, PGA Tour China, or Mackenzie Tour, I believe. Am I understanding this correctly, first off?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to slip up there, but you nailed
it. Okay, so the big question, before I reveal whether I hate this or I love this, is why is the tour doing this?
I mean, I guess they've seen the success of college golfers coming out of like university. Obviously, it was an influx of, they weren't seniors, but they were still, elite level talent. And they just don't want these guys going through a slump and getting stuck on some of their lesser tours or, playing mini tours and just not making the jump to the PGA Tour. So it's just a little bit of cohesion between college golf and the PGA Tour, which seems logical, like every other kind of pro sports league has this in some form. I guess that kind of what makes golf different is that, once you graduate, aside from like the top guys who are going to get exemptions into a bunch of events, this gives them a way to kind of create a path for them and, not get lost in the shuffle. But again, you could argue that that's what makes golf great and everyone kind of has a fair chance, but I don't mind it. It's only for seniors, so it's not going to be like you're still going to have the Wolves. You're going to have the Hovlands coming out of school early to make the jump. But it's just, it's going to make college golf a little more interesting too, I think, and bring more eyeballs towards it.
So, right. So this is you have to be there at least 4 years, or you can be eligible for this if you've graduated in 3. So this is not an attempt to I don't know, make it easier for like 1 and done guys or 2 and done guys like you might see in other sports, but it's really, without something like this, Eric, it is really hard to qualify like out of college, because the time that their season ends, what we generally see is the better amateurs, if they've qualified for something like the US Open, they need to stay an amateur, previously, and then they will declare after. And then to your point, they'll try to get as many sponsors exemptions as they can to try to earn enough money to kind of do, what Victor Hovland did, where he even had to go down to the Korn Ferry Tour finals. So I think it makes sense. And the last part of your point, Eric, was it makes college golf more interesting, which it appears, and we don't have any of the details of this, that the Golf Channel is going to show a lot more college events. And with this new ranking system, you're going to know, like, hey, here's an event with so and so teams. There's two guys ranked inside the top 10. There's a big difference between fifth and sixth in those rankings. I think it does make college golf more compelling, and we will probably know a lot more of these guys as they come out and try to earn their status on tour.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head there. I guess it's definitely going to make it more watchable, more trackable. You're going to know who's making the jump, who's getting stuck in the Mackenzie Tour. And you're also going to shed a light on these guys, kind of what we've seen with the Outlaw Tour.
Yep.
They're unfamiliar names that people haven't heard of or they're seeing for the first time. And then you'll learn their backstory, where they played college golf, and you can kind of track them a different way as opposed to just, figuring out who's a PGA Tour rookie and just kind of tracking them from there. So I don't think it's going to be a huge change. I think these top guys will probably find a way to the Korn Ferry Tour anyways. And once they are on the Korn Ferry Tour, like you said, it's only that last portion of the season they have to acquire enough points that they're not just guaranteed full status for the following year after that. So it's only a handful. It's like the end of the summer season type stuff. And then they are exempt into final stage of Korn Ferry Tour qualifying. So there are some advantages, and just adds a nice element of tracking for us.
I'm interested. I think I like this. So we'll see how it actually pans out. I'll be interested to watch more golf, because we knew of guys like Matthew Wolff, like Victor Hovland. If we got a couple extra opportunities to see them on Golf Channel beforehand, it would have been pretty cool. So looking forward to it. Some books out there, Eric, are already looking forward to Tiger versus Phil Part 3. We're like a week out from Part 2. The last one had 2 years in between. We're already looking at Tiger versus Phil 3, where you can now bet on who their playing partners are going to be. This seems premature at best.
Yeah, I don't. That's just books needing to take money on something, so they're gonna throw out any line they can find. People are speculating, I guess, if who's going to be partnered with who. I have no idea.
No.
There's obviously names floating around, but it is extremely premature. I'm definitely excited for the PGA Tour to get back so we can kind of move on to regular betting lines and not these exhibition matches. But yeah, there's some interesting names on there. I saw you talking them up.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, so the favorites, so to speak, that are being offered are like Steph Curry, Tony Romo, which I think make a lot of sense, right? Like that's logical. They are athletes who are single digit handicaps or better. I mean, Romo's got to be a scratch golfer, right? I mean, he's legit.
Yeah, he's a zero.
But it's weird because the quarterbacks thing made sense. Like two Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Some of the other names on the list go outside into the world of pop culture, whether it's music or television. I mean, Larry David is 5-1 or whatever. First of all, I all in on that. But I don't think that would be good television. Well, it wouldn't be. It would be good television for me, but
Yeah.
not the general viewing public. So I'm afraid we don't have enough guys, unless you're willing to roll out a 25 handicapper that will make this interesting enough, or we're going to run out of them very quickly.
Yeah, I think we touched on that briefly last week because of the MJ rumors. It just you can't run yourself thin too quickly. I liked your take on Samuel L. Jackson with the Capital One Insider. He was a bit of a long shot. I could see them just doing a full-on sponsorship type thing, capitalize on who they're paying. I guess Capital One wants get their money's worth. He's made appearances before, so I don't mind. I don't mind that, but I'm definitely not going to be clicking it.
Yeah, so that is me being unbelievably pessimistic about the way that these things are kind of put together, which is I could see them having Samuel L. Jackson out there just to be the Capital One, what's in your wallet guy, and just selling out for it. I could see that. I don't give him a lot of credit for being able to do it. But I mean, if you think about the two favorites, Steph Curry and Tony Romo, okay, if they're the partners, that's not that good. Who they're, that's not, people aren't going to watch in the same way that Peyton, or they're going to watch for Peyton and Tom Brady. Steph's great, but Tony Romo, I feel isn't, he's fine. There's not going to be that much banter. Do they know each other all that well? It's just, I feel the more of these we do, the more awkward they're going to get.
Yeah, you'd have to you'd want to keep it within the sport. If like Curry and even like Andre Iguodala, it'd
Yeah,
kind of
that'd
be
be better.
interesting.
That'd be better.
Former teammates, but again, you're basketball. I don't know what's
That
the crossover there. Maybe
that
not as much as football.
that's why I think what they're gonna have to do is they're going to have to just keep. They're gonna have to go to pro players. So it's gonna have to be Tiger and Phil along
Yeah,
with Ricky Fowler and Justin Thomas or something like that. And it's gonna be more golf oriented, and you won't break into the mainstream as much. But like I you cannot replicate the quarterbacks thing over and over again. Like that, it's gonna be really hard.
I mean, I hope they don't, run this thing into the ground and it's over. It's lost its allure after a couple, one more match, and then we're kind of sick of it. It seems like they have something that they can run with, and I just hope they don't overdo it. And I wouldn't mind like another 2-year break and come back and figure it out there. I guess Tiger and Phil would both be a little bit older. Phil would be into his
Yeah.
50s. I don't know how much more golf I want to see of Phil Mickelson into his 50s,
You
but
mean you don't want to see Phil Mickelson PGA Tour champions eligible? What a cornball.
yeah.
Well, I think we can agree one of the best things that came out of that was the mic'd up players. And there has been this kind of, I think Charles Barkley mentioned it. JT might have chimed in on it, but there's kind of been a growing contingent, and maybe it's just on Twitter, of wanting to see guys mic'd up during PGA Tour action, especially because there will be no fans out there, giving a little insight. So I guess the most logical place to start with this, Eric, is would guys be willing to be mic'd up when they're playing for $1.2 million?
It's a tough one. It's really tough. There's definitely pros and cons to both. I would, it really depends on what they're going to use the audio for. If it's going to be live 100% of the time, like picking up everything, then players would definitely be a little more hesitant.
Yeah.
If they're using it in some kind of post-production or even like just a replay of like how this shot, went down, or, even if it's like a 10-second delay, like viewers at home barely know what's a live shot and what's not. So
they definitely do not know what is a
yeah.
live shot and what is not.
So if they see that there's a good conversation going on between, caddy player or even player, they can always cut to that. I don't know how the PGA Tour would intend to use the audio. I don't think they would. I don't know. It seems like another layer to the broadcast that they might not be prepared for. If I was a Max Homa, I would be trying to find a microphone and mic myself up.
Yeah.
Like, these guys should be looking for a different way to kind of promote themselves, and I think that's definitely one way of doing it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think if we ever saw it, it would be in the similar route of what the NFL does, which is, they've got guys mic'd up, but you see a 2 or 3 minute package, coming out of commercial, going into commercial, whatever, of, funny things that happened or things that they were saying or someone calling an audible at the line. That's where we got the famous, Sam Darnold saying, "I'm seeing ghosts out there," and everybody all upset that, the NFL and the Jets or whatever approved that and let that go on there. So that is unfortunately what I envision when we talk about miking up players, not my ideal situation, which is everybody's got a mic on or around them, whether that is just booms everywhere or they're wearing mics, and you put this thing on like pay-per-view and you charge $9.99 a month and you let them say whatever the hell they want. Like, that's my dream scenario, but we are like 10,000 steps away from that.
Wishful thinking.
How much would you pay for that? How much would you pay for a no commercials, no commentators, open mics, and I can't make this like the idea, like, you only get to watch like either one or two groups. So basically PGA Tour Live now, one or two groups, one or two holes, but everyone's mic'd up, no commentators, no commercials. How much would you pay for that?
Yeah, I mean, PGA Tour Live should be mic'd up right now. So whatever they're charging, I'd pay that. That's how they should draw people in through PGA Tour Live if they want to promote that as like a secondary broadcast stream. They can pick their groups. They can, it's a lot easier to kind of navigate between a couple groups mic'd up as opposed to an entire field. So I think those guys should be, if you're on PGA Tour Live, you have a mic on. This wasn't my kind of point, but I've heard it said that, remember when John Rahm at the Players was kind of roasting his caddy last year?
Yes. Oh, that
like
shot
that, and then
out of the bunker trying to go over. Yeah.
Like there's just kind of, it seemed like they were kind of in a kind of a tiff. PGA Tour put that video out and then deleted it afterward because it kind of made Rahm look like he was being an aggressor, or not an aggressor, but just kind of like fed up with his caddy, or there was some kind of beef going on there. So they deleted that video, which kind of just goes back to what we talked about last week and in the future, that the PGA Tour is going to try to protect their players at all costs, and putting microphones on them probably isn't the best way to do that.
God forbid we hear a passionate reaction from a guy on like 6 holes away from the largest prize pool and like deepest field in the sport. God forbid we hear that, Eric. Like, how terrible would that be?
One of the best interactions I've ever heard between a player and caddy. It showed so much like emotion, raw emotion, like realness to it, where you could see the caddy getting frustrated, Rahm getting frustrated. It was so good. And then, yeah, it's no longer in existence.
It was human. It was human. Like, it was, these guys, most athletes are kind of put on this pedestal of being like, you know, oh, unapproachable or untouchable. These guys are gods, whatever. Golfers might not be the same way. Outside of Tiger Woods, when he walks in a room, it's completely different. But like, that was a human moment, and it was awesome. And like, John Rahm's great. Like, who cares? Air that everywhere. That should have been like a commercial that the tour ran for years to come.
I second everything you just said. It's a tough scene, but this is just kind of going back to, yeah, we're probably not going to get microphones unless something drastically changes. I don't see it happening, but now would be a perfect time to roll that out. There's going to be so many. It's just going to be so weird to watch commentator try to facilitate the entire broadcast with, I don't know, not a lot of atmosphere. A lot of the times they can just kind of be quiet and we can kind of hone in on the moment, and that's probably not going to be the case with no fans. And it'll be interesting to see how the players are with no crowds and not being able to get in the zone or whatever. But yeah, it's a interesting topic for sure.
Last thing, because this is a topic that I blame you for this topic, and I want to talk about, I guess, okay, so there was a tweet, I guess it was last week, where the First Cut Pod said, give us your hottest golf take. And I said that golf does not have a slow play problem, Eric. Now, I should have clarified. First of all, before I go in on this, I should have clarified. The PGA Tour does not have a slow play problem. Golf, when I go to the golf course and I watch some guy grind, some 30 handicapper grind over like a 4-footer for 3.5 minutes, that's a problem, right? But like, the PGA Tour does not, and I actually blame you for this, because you have been very good at your job of you know, letting us know what's going on, right? And if Bryson's grinding over a read for however many minutes on PGA Tour Live, it might be someone like you, or you personally, Eric, who posts that on Twitter, right? So this is, you know where I'm going, you know what I'm talking about here.
I can be a little bit of an agitator, I guess. I had to come after you for your tweet. Now, my question back to you is, so say you're stuck behind a guy who clearly hasn't played golf before or is very new, but they're out there and they take 3, 4, 5 practice swings, real practice swings, not just going through a swing field. They're lining up, pretending to hit the ball. Yeah. Where do you think they're learning that from?
Okay.
This is
the best argument, right?
It's copycat.
Yes, this is the best argument, and it's the same in a lot of sports, right? And it's okay for the guys on the PGA Tour to take 3 practice swings because they're playing for $1 million and it's their career. But I understand what you're saying, that that trickles down. That's the best argument you can make for the PGA Tour.
Glad I nailed it.
Speed up. So, but my general thoughts on this are, we get a lot of clips like that, right? Okay, JB Holmes is a different story because we know what was going on 18. But like, these guys know if the group ahead of them is at a par 3 and they're waiting or something like that, and they're going to spend an extra 30 seconds looking at a putt. But my bigger issue with it is, I think that Tiger versus Phil just showed us that even when there's not a lot of golf being played because there's a lot of downtime, it can still be entertaining. So I contend that the PGA Tour's quote-unquote slow play problem is more of an entertainment problem. If I can't be entertained for 2.5 minutes while Bryson is working on a putt, send me somewhere else, or let me listen into the caddy read, or whatever it is. It's not just about him playing slowly. It is about keeping everyone's attention.
Yeah, I watch a lot of golf, and there are times where I'm watching and I have to look away just because I'm kind of bored with what's going on the screen, and like
Yeah.
that's not good. It's hard. It's extremely hard to keep someone captivated by what's on the screen for 3-4 hours. I I don't think there's a solution to that. They could obviously flip between golfers a lot quicker, a lot faster. We really shouldn't see, unless it's like big moments, big spots. Like there shouldn't be any. The first few rounds should be rapid fire shots. They're trying to like create a story early, or they're trying to highlight certain players. I get you can't just go quick, rapid fire, and you kind of lose your bearing on what's going on in the tournament. But yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated problem. I will defer to guys who are on the course saying that play is slow.
Yeah.
I'm not out there. I've been to a few tournaments, and it's sometimes it's a bit of a grind to watch a guy kind of pace off a chip shot, and you're like, holy crap, buddy, hit the ball. But I get it. Like they're playing for a lot of money. It just, I know one way for everything to get sped up, and it's by enforcing the rules. And it's just something that has never, ever been done. So nothing's going to change until they start enforcing rules. And until then, guys will take as long as they want.
Okay, the walking off like a chip or a pitch, that's the one that gets me. It's like when the guy's like, he could be like 60 yards out in the fairway and he walks up to the green. I'm like, bro, you better knock this in if you're gonna do that. Like if you're gonna walk up there and not know the the green complexes or anything like that, you have to go see it for yourself. That's the one that gets me. All right.
I could just to interject here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just allow rangefinders.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to get the exact pin location anyways. They have to do math. It takes time to do the math. Bryson has a few more calculations than most, but you're going to get to the number. Obviously, there's slopes in the greens that they're trying to account for, but that's all in their greens book. So if you can just gun the pin, you have the exact yardage of the pin. There's a slope in front of it. You have your number so much faster than to pace something off or to go up and analyze the green. I just think that we've seen it the last 2 weeks. Both those matches, they were allowed rangefinders, and I thought, maybe it's something that is helpful for these guys. It allows them to be quicker. I just don't think it's going to take that much responsibility away from the caddy, and it would definitely help speed up play.
All in on rangefinders. I agree. It's a process that might, if it saves you 30 seconds, 25 times around, there's 12 and a half minutes you just knocked off the round right there.
Times 150 guys.
Exactly. So it's silliness. Eric Patterson, what are you working on? Anything cool coming down the pipeline that we should be aware of?
You put me on the spot with these cool things. I gotta start.
I don't know, cool, interesting, or annoying, like fun. I don't know, like what? You tell me.
I've mentioned this before. My kind of feature series has been 50 days until golf, looking at interesting facts, records, people, all related to the number that is existing. Time remaining till golf resumes, the PGA Tour resumes, and we're starting to look ahead. So tomorrow I have 8 questions that will be answered when the PGA Tour returns. I got 6 guys that we're excited to see, 4 tournaments that we're looking forward to. So
wow,
we're counting things down, and it's a nice change of pace as opposed to continuing to look at history.
It's like the 12 days of Christmas every day.
It's been 50 though. It's been a long one.
50 days of Christmas. Oh man, I wish I had it up now. I had a good random stat like 2 days ago, and now I cannot remember what it was. Oh man, it's eating me alive. Oh, I found such a good one. And like sometimes I find one and I'm like, oh, I'll save that for when that guy does something noteworthy, and then I'll tweet it, and then it never happens, and I forget.
Was it Tiger related?
I don't think so, because I feel like I would have remembered that. I don't know. I did a deep dive on Justin Rose, and like his rise to the number 1 and his fall, and like it is kind of crazy. Like the guy, off the top of my head, from like 2015 to 2018, I think he lost strokes off the tee like 7 times in like whatever how many years that is, 4 years, and then he did it like 7 of his last 9 events just before he dropped Hanma, which is like kind of crazy. So
I think that's a big story. I wrote a quick little betting preview today, and just kind of looking at two reasons why I like Rose at Colonial. Obviously, he won in 2018, and yeah, the club switch. I think it's kind of a understated thing, but when someone gives up on endorsement money to pursue better results, they're starting to take their game a little more serious.
I'm all in on Rose, buying him moving forward for that exact reason. And also, usually when guys do switch clubs, they are kind of doing it on the fly, and they're learning new things in tournaments. And to have a 3 month stretch where you could get dialed in and not have to learn on the fly feels incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I think it's 40-1, so I don't know how long that number is going to last, but it was nice to see those odds boards return with McIlroy, Thomas, Rahm. It was just a pleasant sight to see.
It's like old times, baby. All right, Eric Patterson. You can find his work on The Score. You can find him on Twitter. It's at epatgolf. Eric, appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Looking forward to the next time.
All right, this is 300 Yards to Unknown. I'm Rick Gehman. Hit me up on Twitter at RickRunGood, and we'll catch you next time.